Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Hey, a little shout out this morning to Audio Hive, which is where we fake our coffee shop, right? So we got the coffee sounds going. So, I mean, I think our listeners know by now we're not really in a coffee shop. So that's great. So we got a whole podcast on honesty based on dishonesty. I think that's just perfect.
You know what's funny? So I was on TikTok. In fact, I'm slowing down on social media a little bit just because that's an addiction too, right?
Right.
Or it can be. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's a big dopamine hit, you know. But I was out there, and it was not Sober.Coffee. It was, I had my Cali
one,
Cali, whatever it was, and so we were talking about sobriety, and the guy says, "Hey, you should listen to this podcast."
Stop it! He does not say Sober.Coffee.
He did.
Oh my!
Goodness. Random out in the universe. He goes, "This is my favorite one." I'm like,
"Wow!"
I'm like, "You have got to be kidding me!"
Yeah, right. Did you out yourself?
I did.
Okay.
And I said, I'm very familiar with that. And he goes, "Oh, do you listen too?" I said, "I am Glenn of Glenn and Mikey, or Mikey and Glenn." And he's like, "There's no way." And I'm like, "There is a way."
Right.
Like, it's just crazy. So it's just crazy how the world works.
Anyway, quickly, Audio Hive. Shout out to Brian.
Thanks, Audio Hive.
Brian, come on back strong.
When we first had the idea,
yes.
we bought the $19 microphone,
right.
and in 5 minutes we're like,
we talked. Right.
So it's funny because Brian, everybody's got these websites and contact forms, and so I went to like 4 different studios here in Chicagoland, right? And Brian says, "Hey," on his webpage, he goes, "Hey, call me and I'll give you a free episode," right? Which I don't think, Brian, I don't think we've ever gotten the free one.
Yeah,
but
we'll check the count.
Yeah, but we but it was so funny because like he called me back and he's like, "Hey, let's do this," and we come in here now. There's cameras. Now
lights,
it's
cameras,
like
action, right?
Yeah, now it's perfect.
And this morning we had Bianca.
Yep. Thank you, Bianca.
Yes, thank you. All right, so let's get right down to business. Okay,
let's get down to it.
Business. So we had Tim in last week. Welcome back, Tim.
Thank you.
And
great to have you back.
I begged him to come back because he says something in meetings, and then he backs it up with content that has helped me along the way. Because I use the line, I don't always know what the right thing to do is, what God's will, what my will is. I don't know, but I can pretty much tell what I shouldn't be doing. Right.
Right. Yep.
Right. So my mantra is do the next right thing. Like I thought for years about when my mom, my best friend, would pass, right? And I thought, surely I drink then. I'm going to drink then. When my daughter gets married, surely I'm going to drink then. I had a long list of asterisks, right? Well, it turns out that I lost my best friend recently, my mom, and I didn't drink. And the reason I didn't drink is because I just did the next right thing. The next right thing that moment when she passed away was to be sober for my siblings, for the family, right? The next right thing the next morning was to get up and begin to prepare her celebration of life. So that's my mantra. You have one, Tim, which I love. And we clean this up for Audioville.
Why?
Because we're trying to be G.
Why?
Okay, give it up.
He says, "Don't be a dick."
All right, there we go. So, for point of reference, we'll say, "Don't be a Richard." Sorry, Dick. Sorry, Richard.
Yeah.
Anyway, you say that, and that's my do the next right thing, right? So, but then you back it up because you said,
or don't do the next wrong thing.
Or don't do the next wrong thing, because you said last week. If you read between the lines, what you were saying last week is that sobriety is so much more than just the abstinence, right?
Right.
And that it's become a habit for you, a way of life. So when did you bubble that little mantra up for yourself? When did you come to the realization maybe that you were being a dick?
Well, sure. we won't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it.
Right.
That's part of what we get out of this. And yet, when we think of the past, most of us think about all the negative things that we went through, all the pain and everything else, as opposed to all the positive things, because we weren't all that bad.
No,
we
a lot of positives happened.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we were bad sometimes. We were good people who did bad things and
Right.
all that other kind of stuff. And ultimately, once you get past the drinking part of it, that yes, it's hard when you start out because you're trying to figure out your place in the world, and we all have a place, and that's kind of part of not being a dick. Is you have a place, you just have to appreciate where that place is and do the next right thing. But that phrase is not unique to me. I heard it from somebody else in a meeting or something.
I was going to go no, every time you said it.
Disappointed now.
Yeah, no, it was from Dr. John, and he heard it from somebody else. Because most of our thoughts in AA are not original.
Right.
We hear other people and how they survived.
We just say it a little different.
We say it a little different.
Because it impacts us a little differently.
But it worked for them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do is not repeat and go in that same path that led us to our problems, that led us to our behaviors, but create a new path.
Right.
And one of my counselors, God bless her, Barb, in rehab, she explained it. We started on this path, and everybody's a good person, and we diverged somewhere. It's possible to get back on the path, but you have to get back to the path. You want to have to get back to the path. You want to have to search out through the woods what that path is.
No, it's just you say that because when I was in one of my many rehabs, my counselor, we were sitting by the river, by the Fox River, and we were talking about the cycle, right? The being paralyzed and the cycle. And she's like, well, you're identifying as the drunk Glenn. She goes, the right way to do this is, she said, that's not who you are today at the core. That's how you're behaving, but that's not what you're about. She goes, typically what you're about is who you were in third grade. She goes, tell me who you were in third grade.
I was going to say second grade, or kindergarten.
You're an overachiever.
Yeah.
You started early.
Yeah. Okay.
So I said, well, hey, I was funny, I was neat, I was loving, I helped people, I was smart, I enjoyed life, and so I started listing all these attributes, and I stopped. It was that moment in time where I stopped looking at myself as being the self-hate, loathing, guilt,
right.
all that stuff, and I'm like, okay, that is who I can identify with, and that was part of my original shift. One of the things I like about stop being a dick is, we have the privilege, when you go back repeatedly to the same meeting, not only do you change yourself, but for me, I saw change in you, and I saw change in you.
Right.
Before I ever saw change in myself, right? And so I start, I had 2 daughters, blew me off. We never want to talk to you
off.
Yeah. Never want to talk to you again. Right. And so I started to see people in the room, their relation, I saw redemption in their relationships, right? And I saw, hey, they're starting to bond, and they're starting to grow, and they're starting to talk to each other again. They're starting to connect, and over time, and I work with some guys, and they're still waiting for that to happen. And I had redemption in my relationships. It took a lot of time, a lot of patience. It took a lot of, I really believe, and I can say this in 11 years. I think I've showed up every time. Maybe I had 1 or 2 times where life just changed, and I called and I said, hey, I'm not going to be there. But that was one of the things, showing up, right? But there's one guy I know, 25 years sober, and he does not have relationships with his kids. He has not been able to have that, joy of redemption in his relationships. And I didn't say this to him, but I'm like, dude, you're a dick. And I'm like, nobody wants to have a relationship,
right?
Because frankly, I didn't use the word dick. I used a nicer word, asshole. You're an asshole. Like you just his whole demeanor. And I'm working with some guys today that are still sideways, and yet they want to attract. And Tim used the word attract earlier. They want to attract redemption. In some ways, they don't even want to attract it; they're demanding it. And I'm like, dude, you're not getting this yet.
You're not entitled to it.
Yeah, you're not getting this yet.
Yeah, in our past is our past. And through our conduct, what we did and what we didn't do, we have educated, unfortunately, the people who are closest to us. That, maybe we aren't a person that they can rely on and they can trust and everything else. So once we start being that better person, that person who just doesn't act on his thoughts, gets through the alcohol part of it, the abstinence, and learns that you can live without alcohol, then the hard work starts.
Right, exactly.
After that is how you now interact with, and there's always a fear on the alcoholic's part that people are going to reject them, or people are going to think,
and now you got to deal with those fears.
And sometimes there are those people you encounter, but most people, my experience has been, most people understand, and they're curious, because most of us do have this connection somewhere out there, whether it's family, friends, otherwise, with somebody who should take a step back and think that maybe I shouldn't be doing these things, and maybe they're involved in the addictive type behavior. And over time, the trust, you build a sense of trust that this person has shown by their conduct, because, face it, we've told many I'm sorries.
They're tired of the words.
And they apologize.
Words don't
and
matter.
that doesn't mean anything, right?
Right.
It's the conduct. It's, can this person be relied on? Is this the person that I married? Is this the person who is my father? Is this the person who's my brother? Is this the person who's my partner? That's what they want to hear. And people want us to be sober.
Really focus on the time there, Tim, because in the big book, right? There's that story of the guy that comes out of the hurricane or tornado shelter. Look, Ma, the wind stopped blowing, right? And I've worked with guys that have had totally obliterated their families for 20 years, and the level of demands that they have at 90 days.
Oh, well, forget it. I mean, I know, but
it's just amazing.
But we're dealing with other human beings, and they have their feelings, and they have their own experiences, and we don't control that. That's one of the first things you got to learn. We can't demand that you respond to us in a particular way, even though that seems to be what society is doing in certain areas.
Best lesson I heard, Tim, about that. I heard a sponsor, I overheard a sponsor talking to sponsee, right? And the guy's like, "Hey, man, I'm 90 days sober. That bitch, she should do this and she should do. How long do I got to put up with her shit?" 90 days sober, he's saying this. The best, most wisest thing I think I've ever heard, or lesson that I learned from, is the sponsor just looked at him very calmly. That was key. He goes, Until what? Until when? Until I do this and I do. I mean, literally 90 days sober. And he's expecting, and the sponsor very wisely, very calmly, just 3-4 times, until.
Well, that first few months of sobriety, and once we've gone through a period of time, I remember thinking, I should be getting pats on the back here. There should be a parade. You never voice that, but that's in the back here. And I'm working my ass off here.
Look at me now.
Yeah, but that's the same behavior that got
You've
us
never
into
gotten
the
the parade,
problems.
You've never gotten the parade.
No, and I don't want the parade. I don't want
See,
the
that's
parade.
the difference today. You don't want it.
Right, I'd like to stay in the background. I don't need to be the center of attention.
I call
That's
that
fine.
ride the back of the bus. I love the back of the bus.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'm 90 days sober.
B-team.
I get pulled over for doing 45 in a school zone, right?
Yeah. Come on, check me. Let's go.
That's what I said. I said, here's the deal. 91 days ago, you would have been able to rip me up for a DUI. He said, congratulations, be careful.
Yeah.
Right? I haven't played that coin again, but yeah.
I played that once on a Saturday morning. I'm like, "Hey, man, you're lucky I'm sober." I said, I'm working real hard, and the guy let me off too.
Yeah, right.
Well, not too recent, not so long ago, I was going down out of Frankfurt and New Lenox, and I got pulled over for not using my turn signal.
Oh, Tim.
Now, this is 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm on my way to get donuts, on my way to the meeting, etc.
Donut run.
Yeah, donut run. And the guy was looking for somebody who was doing something inappropriate. And I'm just sitting there. He says, "Where are you going? You're not using your turn signal." I'm going to an AA meeting. He goes, "Oh, okay. Have a nice day. Here's a warning."
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So one of the things I heard, and I maybe just want to kind of begin to close on this, is the thinking, and Glenn, you said it so poignant. It's my thinking that moves into actions. My biggest red flag is when I start acting like drunk Mike. I'm not thinking of the drink. But I'm acting like that guy.
Right.
I'm irresponsible. I'm
Right.
not accountable. I'm isolating. I'm doing all these things that drunk Mike did. I'm not thinking of a drink, but those red flags go up all around me, saying, no, that's not what I'm buying into now. That's not new Mike. That's not sober Mike.
But you have those red flags now, and that's the gift of
Awareness.
recovery.
Yes.
Is to have that pause and to question our own thinking that people who haven't gone through recovery don't really do. Or
That's right.
I mean, some people do, and God bless them because they have a benefit that other people don't have. But to be able to question yourself, hey, I would like to do this. Is that the right thing? Should that be something I'm doing?
Right.
What is that? Am I harming somebody? Am I harming myself? Am I harming somebody else? But just that pause gives you that perspective.
Yeah, which is a beautiful
Your red
gift.
flags. Your
It's
red
a,
flags.
It's a beautiful gift. Self-awareness.
I still have some questions for Tim here. So, 17 years sober, right?
Right.
It's awesome. Are you comfortable with who you are today?
Yes.
Wow, not a hesitation.
Yeah. Yeah.
The question wasn't even finished.
Oh, I know. Are you? Yes.
Yeah.
No, but isn't that one of the real meanings?
Right.
Because when you're drinking, right, when you're living that life, at least for me, I hated who I was. I wasn't comfortable with who I was. I couldn't sit with who I was. In fact, one of my worst exercises in rehab, they sat me in a white plastic chair outside, no phone, no nothing, for 3 hours. And I literally thought I was going out of my head, And today, I would welcome that, because it's just different. So I love. So I asked you that. First of all, I knew the answer because I watch you, and I love watching you, and there's just so much value of you in the rooms, and we get to that point, chaos into comfortable, right? Just love that. And one of the things I really liked what you said was, we all have a place. And I think that's important, especially with Sober Curious, because there's so much ambiguity. There's so much, volatility, uncertainty, chaos, ambiguity, when you kind of figure, what is a sober thing? How am I going to get through? How am I going to get through that party? How am I going to, And plugging in, you get all those answers from hearing other people's stories and connecting and building the community, the sober community.
Well, becoming sober does not mean you're superhuman. We are still going to make mistakes. We're still going to get...
You deal with them better.
Yeah. Yeah, you that's it. That is the issue.
Totally do.
We have
and
relationships.
You make less of them.
Right. And we get over them. We're human beings. Everybody's going to make a mistake. Everybody's going to get angry. Everybody's going to get focused on something that the external world thinks is just silliness. But number one, do we have to tell them it's silliness, or can we just keep our mouths shut for a while and not create controversy? Other people, they can spin in their own minds, but we don't have to be the people who are constantly correcting.
Doesn't the world need a 12-step program?
Well,
I think Dr. Scott Peck, quoted by Dr. John, says that. He's like, that's the best thing that's ever been, built. Well, except for the iPhone, in the 20th century. But no, I think people living by the 12 steps, and so, all right, one last quick hit, and I'm changing around just because there's things about you I just absolutely respect, and so you had a key career, right?
Right.
We get a lot of questions, or I have a lot of conversations about people in their career. Should I tell them that I'm an alcoholic, right? Or I don't drink, right? There's a lot, for me, there was a lot of trepidation, and early in sobriety, I played all the games. Hey, give me a non-alcoholic beer in a regular glass, and don't, just bring them, don't tell, or bring me a cranberry juice with a lime, with a stirrer, make it look, and every time I did that, I relapsed. So
you wanted to fit into a place that you...
Well, yeah, and because I was ashamed of being an alcoholic, and I was ashamed. I wore that as shame. Now I wear it as a superpower. And I got to the point where I was out with a CEO, and he was drinking rosé want ice.
Oh, I love this story.
Okay.
Right, and he's pushing me, and I'm drinking my seltzer water, and I was probably a year sober. I had just gotten off my antabuse, right? So I was in like a little risky zone, right? I was in Manhattan, and so he's like, "Hey, have a drink with me, have a scotch, right?" And he kept pushing me. I'm like, "No, no, I'm good with my seltzer," and finally, at that moment, it clicked for me that my sobriety meant more to me than what he thought of me.
Yeah.
And I looked at him, I'm like, you know what? I don't drink. There's a reason why I don't drink. And then I had to be a dick, and I said, by the way, if you call that drinking, right? So now, and now everybody I work with, because I look at them as guardrails.
Sure.
Everybody I work with knows that I don't drink. And they know why I don't. Now they don't know every depth of every diarrhea story I had while I was drinking, but they know I don't drink. So now when I go out, and I hire people around me that I hired one of my sponsees' wives. So guess what? When I'm out, I'm behaving. I set guardrails up and accountability guardrails, so I behave right. And it's just smart. But
Life is easier.
I have found I put a $15 million deal on the line. Before we closed, I had an IRS problem, and it came up in my background check, and they asked me, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to lay it all on the table.
Right.
I'm going to be who I am. Mm-hmm. And I told them my story. It took me 5 minutes. And again, I didn't tell them everything, but they got the point. And I said, you know what? I said, I just felt you guys had to know the whole story before we closed this deal, and there was a pause. And I'm like, everybody's counting on this deal closing. We got so much on the line. And they came back, you know what? They said, Glenn, that's amazing you shared that with us. We are good. And I almost look at that as a superpower now, where every time I do a big deal, I let them know. I say, hey, I got a story to tell you that doesn't show up on my background check.
Sure.
Right? And what I realize is what I went through doesn't disqualify me. It actually qualifies me because of the different way I live today.
Well, you were able to change and
you
adapt.
have a professional career.
Yeah, sure. But most people, that early sobriety is such a difficult time because you don't know where you fit in, and you're trying to fit in, and you enter sobriety not understanding what life will be like post-drinking. Mm-hmm. And then you become sober, and you have to deal with anyone's. And I had a benefit because on that day where I told my wife I couldn't deal with this anymore, I also called my partners and told them what was going on. So I was really upfront. But I remember being in rehab and talking to my wife and telling her I don't want anyone else to know about this.
Oh, I know, right?
I'm just
because
it's going to have
I had the cone of silence down.
Because and
Yes.
what I learned is that all these people around us have a right to have an experience, and their experience is real to them, and they have a right to talk about it.
Right,
Why can I tell that? So you take that forward, and you're dealing now with you're in a professional relationship, or entertainment's part of the professional relationship. What do you do with it? I think it's very risky for anyone without at least 5 years of sobriety to start dabbling with fake drinks and
100%.
It's just dangerous.
Right.
Now, maybe that works for you later.
Right.
And I've had, non-alcohol beer before. Okay, good. But I did that. I didn't do that early on.
No, right.
Because that's going to take you right down another slide.
Everybody that sees me drinking non-alcoholic beer today, and I drink one a month.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody that sees me drink it knows I'm an alcoholic.
Again, when we become responsible, when we become accountable, when we're no longer a dick, people notice.
Yep.
And I think I may have mentioned this last week when I was here. One of the gifts that we give to the people around us is we become that accountable person. Right. People see that there is an ability of human beings to change. Mm-hmm. We're not perfect. Everybody has their idiosyncrasies, but that gives people hope.
Yes. Gives me hope.
Well, there's a much more greater ability to trust somebody who is being upfront with you. Mm-hmm. And I've had conversations with people who hire me, clients who are in difficult situations because of alcohol and drugs or whatever the case may be, and I've told them my story if I think they're willing to accept it. And some people are not. They're just not there yet.
Sure. Right.
So to that point, and I was actually going to ask you that, so I'm glad you're pretty open about your story with your clients.
Now I am.
Right.
Not in the early part of it.
No, I get it, and that's that growing and take time, right? But I think a key is when somebody's ready, there's nothing you can say wrong.
Right.
When they're not ready, there's nothing you can say right. You know, I mean, it's just and you know what. You know, my sponsor, Tim, taught me years ago, Glenn, it's got nothing to do with you. Yeah. You know, just turn the lights on, carry the message, just be, just live the program.
Well, it's your story. You can't be wrong with your story. And it's a story of redemption, hope, and strength. So.
Well, I happened to be with your sponsor last night, and I'm just shocked anyone ever, recovers with him. But I'm kidding.
I'm the only one.
Yeah, there you go.
Shout out to Tim G.
I'm kidding, Tim. Relax.
I'll tell you what, man. During COVID, right, we were on the videos, and he's a smart ass, and he says in front of 30 people, he's like, "Hey, Glenn, I'm surprised you don't have a picture of me hanging on your wall." And I said, and behind me on my wall, and this is how this shit works. Right?
Is it balloons? I can't remember if it's balloons or it's a.
No, I had 3 lighthouse pictures.
Okay.
With the waves.
That's right.
The big, Portugal, the waves coming over. I'm like, no, Tim, I have 3 pictures of you. I'm like, you are my lighthouse.
Oh God!
And I'm like, take that. I'm like, take that, man.
Yeah.
But that's how I look at them. And you know what? You guys are just so helpful for me, man.
Oh, have been just you two, the two Tims have really.
Well, and those donuts are.
Yeah. Well, look at what you formed a habit. I walk into a place now, I got a muffin or a donut.
That's awesome.
Tim, thank you so much.
Thanks for coming in, brother.
Guys. Thank you not only for coming in and sharing this,
supporting us, and just for
what
everything
you've done for my sobriety. Just a reminder from across the room to not be a dick. Thank you.
Love it.
All right, take care, guys. I learned as much from you guys. Thanks.
Thank you,
See you guys.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.